Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner, operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our program today. Now, we love to talk about horror films at our podcast, and normally we talk about older films that have had a good amount of time to kind of grab onto the imagination of the viewer and to have lots of great reviews and people giving opinions and all that kind of stuff. But the film we're going to be talking about today, it actually is a really recent film, as in actually this year recent film, and it's one that's been talked about actually surprisingly a little bit more than normal, but that's okay because it deserves a talking and a conversation from us here at Conversations in Horror. And to discuss the movie that we're talking about today, I have brought on my esteemed colleague Philip Ray. Thank you for joining us, Philip Ray.
Thank you for having me.
And we are going to be talking about the hybrid vampire period film Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler. I'm almost about to say Michael B. Jordan for a second there, but no, he did not direct this. He stars in this. He directs other movies for right now, but Sinners from this year. So I know you have a lot to say about this movie, Philip, and I probably don't have nearly as much as you do, but I would really like to get your first impressions, kind of your thoughts about the film, since it is a recent film. And for everyone listening, I will tell you this, we might give you some spoilers if you have not seen this film. It is a recent film, so be aware that we might have some spoilers here. So if you don't want to listen to us talk about the film, then don't. Go listen to one of our other podcasts, and then come back after you've seen that film. Okay. Go ahead, Philip. Take it away.
So with Sinners, I remember when the trailer dropped, and I was like, "This is cool!" Like it has a great trailer, very great, very much sucked you in and stuff. Ryan Coogler, I follow some of his other movies, but mostly uh, but uh, but yeah. But when the trailer dropped, I was like, I want to see this movie. I had some suspicions about what the twist was going to be and stuff, but I was very much excited after the trailer dropped, and then I went to go see it, and yeah, it blew me out of the water. I didn't realize how much I was going to end up liking it. I thought I really enjoy this movie. As of today, of the day we're recording this, I still think Sinners might be my favorite movie that's come out this year.
So it's interesting you say that because I did not care for this movie as much as you did. I did not see the movie in the theater. I may have liked it more if I'd seen it in theater, but having watched it at home at the comfort of my house, there are aspects of this film I really loved, and then there are aspects I really hated, mostly because they are borrowed from other films, and I just that bothered me. It bothered me a lot. But the aspects of this film I really enjoyed were the music and the music aspects, the dance aspects in the actual I don't want to call it a bar. It's not a bar. It's speakeasy, not speakeasy. What's the place?
Joy.
Yeah. Those aspects I really enjoyed about the film. Now I like Ryan Coogler. I've seen every one of his films except for Fruitvale Station, surprisingly. The one I should have seen first is the one I still have not seen, and it just for some reason keeps passing by. But I loved every one of his films that he's done. I think he's a brilliant director. I think the concept for this was a very, very, very interesting concept. I'm not 100% convinced of the execution for this film. And we can get we're gonna definitely talk about that more because I know a lot of people are probably thinking, what? Not like the first half of this movie, the setup, the actual ideals behind the juke joint and the whole the building up of the whole musical aspects of this. I really fucking loved. Like I haven't seen a film like this in a very long time. I really loved that. Like I really got into that. I was like, oh, I was all engrossed. My wife was engrossed with this too. But the moment they started bringing in the vampire aspects, those aspects were not nearly as strong for me as the rest of this movie. I actually think they drugged the movie down. Now I understand that the kind of the theme behind it is trying to show the different like great evil, artist in general and music. If it's too good, will attract evil, and this evil comes in the form of vampires, which I thought was, to be honest with you, the film started, in little bitty hints. They brought in the whole thing about the Southern ideal of the Haints, which I fucking love. That no other film I have ever seen has used that aspect except for this film, and I thought that was great. I thought they fucking cheapened it when they decided to make them vampires. If they had used actual Haints in this movie, I think that would have made this movie strong and much better. The idea of using the vampires, I think, shit. The tropes they use for the vampires was shit I've already seen about a billion times before, and they had something already made that no one has really seen that much, which were the Haints. And I was like, oh, and that's generally where I'm coming from when I my opinions on the film, because I was like, it was one of those
So,
times.
so it's kind of funny because you're not the only like reviewer I've seen that has made that comment that did not like the thought the vampire aspect was the weakest. I didn't mind that. For me, I get the reason why he ended up going with vampires. I like the method they did with the vampires and stuff of like, because especially in an age where recently the last couple times we've seen a vampire, it has been like, the like with this and Nosferatu getting back to the old school vampire where they had their old school rules of like you can't go into a building unless getting invited to. And well, I liked what they did with this movie, and I think is the reason why Coogler went with vampires was with this hive mind idea because it was kind of an allegory on cultural appropriation. Because the thing with this whole thing is they're like, again, with it being back during 1932 during the Jim Crow era and stuff, and them being like, oh, there's clear racism throughout the movie and stuff, and they do such a great job that first half, like establishing this world with the vampires and stuff. The whole thing with the main guy played by the main villain played by Jack O'Neill, Remick, uh is that again like he's like, oh hey, like there's no more racism, let's all like work to like become a vampire like me, we all can like be together and there's no more oppression stuff. But then you see like again it's like that whole thing of like they're free, but they're not free because again, they're in the end in this hive mind. And to me, I was interpreting that a little bit about cultural appropriation because the best scene to show that was the scene with the when they were doing the Irish jig and
Yeah.
stuff, and you see all these different races, but they're doing an Irish song, and it's like that's the best thing of like, oh, it's oh look, we're together, but we're not really together because again, there is we're assimilating everything to whatever this main denominant thing to be, which in this movie was Irish culture, which I really liked, and so that's why I didn't mind the vampire stuff. To me, I didn't it didn't bother me as much because when I saw it from that lens, I'm like, okay, I see why he chose vampires in this situation for that and stuff. And again, I think there's a lot of scenes that were effective with that. Again, I love the kind of glassy eye effect that he did a lot with the vampires with this and stuff. I will say probably the weakest part of the movie was the third act when the vampires, we have our big action scene. It wasn't until I watched if anyone who watched the Honest Trailers YouTube series, they're the ones that helped me figure out why they helped me figure out, oh, in that scene they added some random extras just so that scene could go longer because I was like, I remember watching it, I was like, why did this scene feel weird? And then I watched it and they were like, oh, and these two random extras that are added just for the scene. I'm like, there were two random extras added for this scene. I was like, Where the heck do they come from? They're only there just to die. I will agree that was probably the weakest part is the third act, but I thought the lead up with the vampires, I didn't mind that as much.
So I don't like the fact, I don't like the fact that they're hiding the vampires underneath the mythology of Haints. I hated that. If they wanted to go with vampires, they should have never brought up the whole idea of Haints. Haints are their own separate thing that has not been utilized in films enough, in my opinions. And that for me was a complete letdown. This movie for the very end of this movie is fucking From Dusk Till Dawn. If you've seen From Dusk Till Dawn, that's what this movie is. There's nothing original in that last third act except for the Irish jig, which I did think was brilliant. I did think that was brilliant, but I hated the ideal. I hated the ideal that they were one big hive mind because he didn't follow through with it because he let two of them live at the end, and it just happened to be two of the main people when they did that little extra scene at the end during the credits. You kind of ruined your whole idea when you did that, just so you can have this little ending tag on there. If you want to make a strong movie, don't fucking put the tag in there for that. Like, dude, it ruins your idea. It ruins the idea of them having. Because I love the jig, but I also hated the fact that they created so many of these damn vampires, but they had to have a way to kill them all. And I hate that in movies. They have this 100 people villains, and they have to find one quick way to kill them all. And I was like, I really hate that. And I've seen that way too many times in movies. And I can't. It's not original. It's not surprising because when the moment the character says, "Well, we have to find a way to kill them all, or or this is going to spread," I was like, "Why the fuck do you even care about that?" And then
No, I will agree. I will say that the again, I think the third act is the weakest of the film because then again, you get that. I didn't mind the logistics of again, I understood the idea with a hive mind with this idea of cultural appropriation. I do agree it is still kind of lazy. Usually a lot of times the hive mind stuff can be again, it's the short key exactly like you said. Best example was Avengers. That was the best example of the short key of oh, we've seen it in Star Wars Episode One of like again, it's like
Independence Day. It's a trope that's been used throughout time so that the filmmaker could show 100 fucking villains and then they all die in the same way at the very end to make it easy.
yes, yes, because I think that's again that's why my issue. I will say the third act's probably the my is the weakest for me is because again like you have the moment where it's like as soon as the vampires all like bum rush the joint and stuff, there is not enough. The movie's done with the way they showed how many vampires have it collected at that point, and then they show how many people are left in the joint. They're dead. They are not surviving that. But obviously, which is again why they had to add extras inside the joint so you have can show off a little more kills. The vampires getting people and stuff. But yes, it is definitely. I will not deny it is the weakest part. There does get a little villain monologue again at the end there too when Remick is trying to kill Sammy
Mhm.
and stuff. Uh, the tag is the tag took me for a loop a little bit when I first saw it. I was like, what is going on? I understood now after the fact when I looked it up and the reason so a big inspiration of Sammy, especially with the music and stuff, was based on I think Ryan Coogler's uncle, I want to say. It was an inspiration for Ryan, someone from Ryan Coogler's like childhood who a family member who was instrumental and stuff. And the tag was basically it was done as kind of a Ryan Coogler giving a bow to his family member of like, you know, thank you for everything you did when I was a kid type deal. That is why that tag is there. It's a little weird without that context. You are kind of like, what is happening and stuff. So I completely understand not liking that because it is very weird. It's a very weird part. And again, I think the third act is the weakest in general, and I will completely agree. I thought I love the build up with the vampires beforehand of like when it's again the uh I thought they used the vampires can enter a building very effectively. Mind you, there's still some characters doing stupid moments during that and stuff, but like generally I was very tense. I was very tense with a lot of those scenes up until then. But
Really?
yes, the third act, weakest part. It's funny because I've never seen Dust Till Dawn myself.
Okay, so I'm gonna end up talking about several movies that this movie riffs on, but that was like the most blatant one there from Dust
Yeah,
Till Dawn, because that's
it's
essentially the same type of format. It's one type of movie for the first half, then it changes into a bloodbath vampire film the second half.
yeah, no, I that's what everyone said, and like I personally have not seen Dust Till Dawn, but like so it to me, I was aware of it enough going in to know, okay, this is the Vampire Dust Till Dawn. So I have no negative opinions of that because again, I think so much of this movie works for me. I'm able to forgive the things that don't work for the movie.
There's a lot more that doesn't work for the movie. The only thing I liked about the tag is the fact that it had Buddy Guy as the old Sammy, because I've met Buddy Guy because he performed at one of my jobs like several times. So seeing him in there did make me just, it just warms the cockle of my heart that someone put one of my favorite musicians in the movie at the very end, and it was fitting. He played the old Sammy. And I knew right off the bat who it was because I met him. So that was fucking cool as shit. I hated the ending other than that, but I think that was cool as shit. Now, From Dusk Till Dawn is one of the early movies that got this ideal that you can have a movie be one type of thing and then it switches gears completely in the second half. This movie doesn't hold a candle to the end of From Dusk Till Dawn because of the fact that when you're watching the characters in this movie fight the vampires, they should be fucking dead. There is no way that they should ever be alive because they hurt. The half of the time they're not actually killing the vampires, and the other half of the time you're making these people to be out stronger and more agile than they've ever been in the entire movie. So it doesn't. It rings completely false when half these people are still fucking alive to me. I couldn't get past that. Could not get past that. But and plus when you're watching From Dusk Till Dawn, and a lot of people who have made comments about the fact that this is very much like From Dusk Till Dawn, Coogler should have known from the get-go he was going to get compared to that movie. That character had an amazing cast of characters that could hold their own when they were fighting vampires until they actually got killed and turned into vampires at the end of From Dusk Till Dawn. This film, these people should have been fucking dead in 5 minutes within that the vampires breaking into the juke joint. They should have been. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have been. Sammy should not have been fucking alive, dude. He's a farmer who picked cotton and play the guitar. I'm sorry. It rings false. It just rings false. And when most of the entire rest of that film beforehand rings so authentic and true, when you get to that third act and it rings that false, it takes you out. And me, I have a huge background in watching a lot of horror films, so I've seen From Dusk Till Dawn many times, and you haven't. And I guarantee you, a lot of people who have seen this film probably have not seen From Dusk Till Dawn because this is not sold as like a horror film. This was general audiences, and everyone kind of went to this film. Ryan Coogler is a bigger name than going to go see Robert Rodriguez and Tarantino's From Dusk Till Dawn. Okay. You could get more people. Ryan Coogler could definitely get more people in seats than he could have at that time. And that was definitely marketed as a horror film as opposed to this film. I only saw the trailer for the movie once, and I don't actually remember it because I just didn't want to know anything about it. I wanted to go in blind. I like Ryan Coogler's film, so I just wanted to go in blind. I did that for Black Panther 2, and I did it with his Creed because I love the Rocky movie, so I was going to go see Creed regardless. And Michael B. Jordan, who I think is a fucking phenomenal actor. I go see anything with them, regardless of what genre, what it is, because I think they can do no wrong.
No, I mean, again, Michael B. Jordan. I mean, the reason I think this movie is done so well is a lot has to do with the cast. Again, Michael B. Jordan.
Yes.
he's so good they got him in twice. Like I think the effect of him playing the twins was done phenomenally. Um, it's funny because you can find like behind the scenes of like he had to wear this camera rig a lot and stuff, and it was very hard for him to be able to do the twin stuff. But man, did he nail it! Not very often in movies for me when I've seen identical twins do I really play by the same actor, do I really feel like I can tell the personalities of both. Michael B. Jordan did such a great job that it you could tell the difference of personalities between Smokes and Stack. Like if you put them next to each other, you knew which each one of their personalities were going to be, like what their personalities were and stuff. And that's just a testament of how good of an actor Michael B. Jordan is. I love him. I love him in every movie I've ever seen him in.
Well, it's just not just that either. It's also the way that the characters are written in the story and their relationships with the other characters in the story, which I think is extremely strong. I think Sammy actually is a little weaker because I think there's a lot of stuff with Sammy's character that they just don't follow through with, and they could have. And that's just my opinion.
No, I agree. Sammy is the weakest. He is the uh, he is kind of the uh, he is the character that audiences is the surrogate that we are going through and stuff. So, but he is the weakest throughout, and even at the end, like you never really get a whole. He's I mean this is the actor's Canton's first movie. He has a great singing voice. Oh my gosh! Again, the I can tell you, Kevin, since you saw it at home, seeing the song, seeing the big musical number in Adobe was mind blowing. It is definitely a movie that was great to see in theaters. I know this was shot in IMAX, and I didn't get to see the IMAX part, but apparently like that was done very well. But the music, again, all the musical stuff was done
Yeah,
so well throughout this movie.
yeah, it was. I actually thought this movie would have worked much better if it didn't fucking try and shoehorn a horror movie into it. Or they just didn't use vampires. But that being said, I also want to touch on some of the other aspects of the film that I didn't like, because I will never downgrade the fact that the first half of this movie, first two thirds of this movie is fucking brilliant. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. From the cinematography to the production design, costumes, and the hair for every one of these characters is fucking just on top. Like this movie looks so freaking authentic, and even when they're walking in through the African American town, and you see the grocery store where the one Asian couple owns, and then they walk across the street to the other store that they own. Some of this stuff is just simply breathtaking and beautiful to look at. Even some of the stuff that they did early with Remick as the vampire, and after he turns the first racial, the Ku Klux Klan couple to vampire. Some of that stuff is amazing. And the actor, which I wasn't familiar with until I saw this movie, was it Jack O'Connell? I was not familiar with him until I saw this movie, so I don't know what else he's done. But I thank God that they made him an Irish person because that added so much flavor to the film itself that would not be there if they had made him a different nationality.
Yeah, no, Jack O'Connell did great. He was great as a villain. Going back to what we said earlier, the scene again, and this is great filmmaking that Ryan did. The scene of when they're in the town and you follow the young Asian girl,
Yeah,
uh, and stuff like because you start out and you're seeing the black side of it, and then they're like, and then he goes to the daughter and says, "Hey, can you ask your parents?" And you just and the camera just follows her from
huh?
behind, and you just slowly see as she gets to the other side, and you see the white side, and again. Nothing's ever said. And it's funny because the people I saw this movie with, I point out to them later, and they did not equivalate that this is the same town. And I'm like, yes, it is the same town. Literally, from you never see it, but the implication is on the left side's the black side, on the and the right side's the white side. It's segregated, but you have never known that. That's something that just small, clever filmmaking that like
Mhm.
if you're not if you don't pay attention, like someone who I saw did they didn't pick that up. And I'm like, no, and it's such clever storytelling. Even the introduction of the having like an Asian uh couple there and stuff was so good because it helped uh diversify the cast, and it's not something that's like was done as like it was authentic and stuff. Apparently with Coogler and stuff, that was something that he found like he did research about that, and that's why those characters were introduced, and they were great. All three of them were done so well.
Yeah. No. I definitely, like I said, he does a lot of great work that first two-thirds of the movie. And I'm good, and you probably keep seeing me here the first two-thirds. This is just one of those movies where I just think the entire third act falls apart. And I had the same problem with Coogler's Black Panther too, the first Black Panther he did. I have issues with that too for the third act. But it happens sometimes. It happens sometimes, especially for a film like this that tries to have this big, huge ending to a film that they kind of crafted before then. Um, but getting back on task, because I want to mention some other things, like this.
Actually, one fun
Okay, go
fact
ahead. Go ahead.
about something else you mentioned about the costumes being authentic. Fun fact, do you know where they got the costumes from?
They got them from another film that wasn't going on at the time, and then they kind of got them for half off or some shit like that. I don't remember all the details anymore. I found the story very funny though.
It was from Blade,
Okay,
the canned Blade movie. So for our viewers, as we're recording this, and it's probably gonna be like this for a while, the new Marvel's Blade has been put into development hell, and apparently Coogler was able to like so, but they had all of these costumes that were made for the film that were just in a in a warehouse, and apparently like they were able to convince Marvel to sell them the costumes for this movie. So I know that was a joke a lot of people had coming up to this movie was like they're like, oh, if fine Marvel, you're not gonna do a Blade movie, we'll do our own Blade movie. Give us the costumes.
well, thank God they didn't, because I would not want to see a fucking period Blade movie. Like, I really have no interest in seeing a period Blade movie whatsoever. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, I'm like, dude, nah, I don't want to see that shit. So I'm actually glad. But this movie looks great. One other issue I have with the movie is the scene they stole from The Thing. Now, John Carpenter's The Thing. Now, this sequence has been used in tons of movies. Now, are you aware of what they borrowed from The Thing?
Oh yeah, I know it's the same
Okay.
with the garlic and
Yeah,
stuff.
the garlic. That was, I like, dude, really? That's the dumbest fucking scene you could possibly put in here. And then you don't actually have one of them be affected by the garlic. So why the fuck is this scene in here? Because garlic is like the worst vampire trope there is, and you're trying to shoehorn it in a movie that could have done without it.
I didn't mind that as much. That didn't bother me as much personally and stuff. I do agree that like there wasn't that good of a payoff with that scene, but I
Like,
didn't mind the scene.
like there's no payoff of that. Like, cut it. Why the fuck is it in there? Cut it. I'm sure there's some logic reasons why it had to stay in there, because the movie was over 2 hours long, and if they want to cut something, that should have been fucking cut. Because for me, it didn't pay off. It's kind of like, for me, this is like one of those films where there's some ideals that are really extremely well done, and there's some mention for other ideals that just don't fan out. Like, I hated the fact that they once the Native Americans chase Remick into the house, they never show up again. There's no mention of them. Like, I would have rather seen them show up at some other point. I don't know how. Um,
Yeah, no, I mean that's everyone's common like comment about the movie story is again, yeah, you introduce these really badass
Native Americans, and you do nothing.
Native American hunters, and then they just disappear after that. I mean I think everyone's like said they need their own movie, which I don't know what will actually happen and stuff with that. because the movie was successful, but that's up to Coogler and stuff. Yes, I will agree that that was it was a very wasted uh
I I think they could have gotten Remick into the movie a different way without that. Because they, even though the Native American aspect is mentioned in the opening, kind of when they're trying to go through the whole history of everything, um, it just seems like a wasted moment. Like it was a cool moment that just gets wasted because there's no payoff. There's no, it's just boom, it's there, and then they walk away, and then that's it. Uh,
Yeah, it's very much like you think it's a Chekhov's gun and it's not a Chekhov's gun at all.
Yeah, because I would have thought that if these was these this such a badass Native Americans, and they know Remick is like this evil of a person, I would have just thought they'd go straight in and kill them all and let that be it.
Or at least like they would be like stalking and then later pop up of like we've been kind of like waiting for a moment to strike. But yeah, no, they really do kind of just go,
Yeah,
well, I guess we're done here then.
and we'll leave before it gets dark. That's pretty much it. We're gonna leave before it gets dark. But then the wife turns around, goes to see look for her husband, and he's already turned. I was like, well, that didn't. It got dark really fucking fast. So it's yeah, it's some of these little things like that that normally in a Coogler film you wouldn't see. Like I don't have any, not one single issue with how Creed was crafted or Black Panther, the Black Panther 2. I do have some issues, like I said before, with the third act in Black Panther, the first Black Panther. But Black Panther has one of the best first two-thirds of any Marvel movie ever crafted, in my opinion. But there are certain aspects of that movie I fucking hated in as well, just like I hate them in this movie. Um, but this, I am glad. I am glad this movie was successful because it kind of allows Coogler a couple things. One is he could direct a horror movie and no one will give two shits. You know, most people will do one horror movie and then they might not do another horror movie for 15, 20 years because it's like, ah, shit, that movie wasn't that successful. Maybe I should never do one again. Or, you know, there's a reason why Ridley Scott took so long to do another horror film after the first Alien. He was like, let me stay away from that shit. What, 20, 30 years until he did fucking Prometheus?
Yes, it's the good thing about this movie being so successful is again it goes into the thing everyone's complaining about with Hollywood of we want original IP. And the problem is that a lot of times sometimes with these original IPs it comes out, doesn't do well, and Hollywood goes, "Well, see, this is what happens when we try something new. Let's remake something else." But the fact that it was so wellly successful was a good victory for everyone who's saying yes, we need original IP and stuff because everyone went to go see it. Like it didn't have gigantic marketing, but the word of mouth was so strong with this that that helped fill in the gaps for people to go like so people went to go see it and it did so well. It's also great because um for the viewers and stuff, and Kim, you may or may not know about this. This movie has some interesting backstory with it too, because Coogler, when he was trying to get this movie distributed, he did have a couple of like kind of stipulations, and one of them was that he wanted to have ownership of the film after 25 years, which I mean that is very uncommon nowadays and stuff. And Warner Bros. Is the one who picked it up and they agreed to it. But again, with the idea, but they probably didn't know if it was actually even be successful or not. So the fact that it was, and Coogler's able to get this movie after 25 years, get the ownership. I mean, that's another like small victory for a lot of filmmakers and stuff. That again, it's like they come up with the idea, and then stuff happens, and then they never can pick up their stuff again because the studio doesn't want to do anything with it again.
So that's always a confusing thing, because what happens is, because Coogler is the writer, producer, director, he has a different stake in the movie than someone else. I don't know if he, and this is where, because I'm not sure because of what you just said. Normally, if a person self finances it outside of the studio system and just uses the studio as a distribution chain, that is something that happens. if it is something that's produced through the studio, and or if the filmmaker sells the property directly to the studio, they lose the rights to them after a certain amount of years. But a lot of people retain the rights. A lot of creative people retain the rights to certain properties of theirs after going through something similar like this. And 25 years is pretty standard, but there's a reason why so many actors are also producers and directors as well, because they want ownership of their own stuff eventually. But if you're working under a studio contract, you are almost working for hire. I don't know all the ins and outs of this movie per se. I don't know if it was developed outside the studio system or if it was developed within the studio system.
It was developed within. Warner Brothers gave them the budget and stuff, so it was within.
So, but you said that, you know, the way you placed it is like, you know, when they purchased it, that's not purchasing it. That's them giving him the money to develop it, and so it becomes something of theirs. At which point, the 25 years is something different. Now that being said, the 25 years, that's a great deal. That just allows the studio, and I don't know how this is worded in his contract, because contracts are really fucked up nowadays, especially considering that you can have the original creator can have ownership of the title, but they don't own everything for that title. A case in point would be Don Mancini and the Child's Play franchise. Don Mancini owns Chucky. He does not own Child's Play. So he can't make another Child's Play movie, and the studio can make as many remakes of Child's Play as they want. He owns Chucky, which is why he went off and did movies called Bride of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, Chucky the television series, and the studio could do their remake of Child's Play. So it's a really weird thing, like who owns what and what you get as the creator. Because like Don Mancini created the original Child's Play, but he didn't direct it because he didn't have that clout back then. Tom Holland did. Tom Holland the director, not the actor, directed it. But Don Mancini wrote every screenplay for the entire Child's Play franchise except for the remake, because he doesn't own Child's Play. Like, the studio owns it. They can make comic books, they can do remakes, they can do whatever the fuck they want to with Child's Play, and Don Mancini can't say shit. He can only do Chucky. And Sinners and other properties can be very much like that, which is really screwed up. But that's similar to something like Sam Raimi and Ghost House Pictures and the Evil Dead movies. The Evil Dead movies have different distributors because each one of the films was kind of independent for a long time. Like they can't do anything with Army of Darkness is completely separate than Evil Dead. I don't know if you knew that. They're completely separate. So one person can sell Army of Darkness, the other person can sell Evil Dead, and that's why we have multiple books and comic books from different companies, because they don't own everything. It's a stupid thing, I know it's a stupid thing, but whoever puts that trademark, that copyright on that title really fucks up a lot of things. And Sinners is for the most part an original IP, and hopefully the reason why he wanted to do all this is because he wanted to be able to spin it off to other stuff. So he doesn't have to get studio permission. He can kind of, like, if he fucking hates Warner Brothers and doesn't want to do a spin-off, but with Warner Brothers, he can go to another company and do his own spin-off without their say and say, fuck it. That's a good thing. That means you're not indebted to them. And it means that when the studio says, well, we want to do a Sinners sequel with or without you, when that happens, he can't say, no, you can't. But he can. I guarantee you he can now. You ain't doing no Sinner sequel without me. There ain't going to be no Sinner sequel without me. And that's what we need more of, because studios will run rampant with these shitty ass sequels and remakes to the end of time to keep that IP within their pockets. Case in point, the Fantastic Four reboot before they did the new one that was only being made to fucking keep the IP. Or the Lord of the Rings animated movie that came out only was only made so that the company could keep the IP because I forget what the word is, but the license was coming up to end. Like that's how studios keep that shit from the original creators, you know. But hopefully that's changing, you know. I,
Yeah,
I I for one ain't selling all my. I'm gonna be like George Lucas. I'm gonna one day hopefully come up with an idea like Star Wars and say I'm keeping all the toy rights, motherfuckers. I'm keeping the. Oh shit! Although it would be cool to see some the characters from Sinners as action figures. Have Todd McFarlane come out and make those as action figures would be fucking cool.
that would be great.
That would be cool as shit. So Coogler, if you have the rights to the toys, go ahead and have McFarlane do the toys for the Sinners. I guarantee you sell that shit. Funko Pop, make some money off this. I've not seen no Funko Pops of Sinners yet, although I am surprised at that actually. I have to look into that. Funko Pop does like everything, like literally everything. So, all right, moving on to Sinners. What else can we discuss about Sinners? I know there was one other thing I wanted to point out that I didn't like about the film, and I can't remember what it is, so it must have been small compared to the other ones. Um, but you did mention the dance sequence when Sammy first gets up and starts playing with kind of attracts Remick and his crew. My wife hated that. She didn't like the fact that they were bringing in so many different aspects of different cultures and music in there. I fucking loved it. I thought the cinematography was amazing. I thought the ideal behind it. I think that Coogler, he did this magic that I hadn't seen in any other film before. Like I like, oh, well, I was like beautiful, beautiful. I was really digging that. I was really digging that. What do you think?
No, yeah, no, I like it. No, I liked all of that. Definitely again, I think I remember when the big sequence. I mean, when anyone talks about this movie, they're talking about the big dance sequence. I remember I was originally a little confused when I first watched it. I was like, because it evolves so much and goes on so long, I'm like, what is going on? Until eventually I was like, oh, and I started to realize like what they were trying to do and say and stuff, and then it just evolves. And again, watching it in Dolby was just again, it's just like the music just enwraps you and stuff into it that I was like, I mean, this scene alone, if you take everything out of the movie and you just watch this, it's just such a great scene.
Yeah, oh no, fucking brilliant in my opinion. I loved it.
And even the Irish jig is, while not as bombastic, is also like again the music here overall is again one of the strongest things about it.
I will that I don't care what you say. The Irish jig was fun as shit, dude. I thought that was a great contrast to the Sammy's piece there. I thought visually and the way they executed was brilliant. If there was any reason to have that many actors in there for the vampires in that sequence was for that alone, and that was definitely worth it. I thought it was visually stunning. I thought it was great, and it was a great contrast to Sammy's piece earlier. I like like that's why I said it's like the first two thirds. Like I'm like, oh my god, and I was like, oh, I didn't care for the third act, but the first two thirds, I'm like, oh, this is dude. I was watching this, I was like, oh my god, this is such a beautiful, great film. For me, it's I'm sad that I don't like the third act nearly as much as some of the other people out there, but it's unfortunate that I've watched so many films and for me that there's so many things that was pulled from other films for me because it is sad, it is sometimes sad when that happens. It's unfortunate. I wish I could go back and look at it with eyes like you that haven't seen nearly as much shit as I have. I really do.
You're too old, Kevin. Too old to appreciate.
Now I can appreciate. Well, no, the thing is, I love when filmmakers call back to sequences from old films, and they have a payoff. They don't necessarily need to be the same payoff as in the film or scene that they're calling back, but they still need to have a payoff. The scene with the garlic and them trying to find the vampire within their mist didn't have a payoff for me, so I thought it was useless. I think it was a great callback to the thing. It's done every once in a while, like it's been done several times, much better than in this film. But for me, it didn't have a payoff, so I was like, why? Why even do it if it's not gonna have a payoff? And if you're gonna have a bombastic action sequence at the end to rival that of From Dusk to Dawn, it needs to fucking rival that of From Dusk Till Dawn, because that's gonna be your number one comparison right there. So you need to be better than that, not just be okay. It needs to be better, and it wasn't better. It's not better. What it is better in From Dusk to Dawn is the rest of the movie. From Dusk to Dawn is by far just a fun guilty pleasure movie. You're not thinking about that film. You know, you're not going into that movie thinking it's gonna have any deep meaning or anything. That's not what that movie is. This movie, because of everything that gets set up, is this is a very rich movie, and that's not done a whole lot in horror films. And this one is trying to be a hybrid, and that's one of the things I can appreciate about the movie. It's trying to be a much richer film than what the genre normally calls for, and that's what I loved about it, and that's what I like, that it was successful, and that so many people saw it at the theater, especially the theater, especially in this time where people are thinking that original IP, like you said, is not making any money. And this proves to them that if you bring a rich film with a lot of different culture in it, and there's a lot of culture in this movie, a lot,
So
it
much
will
culture.
appeal to a wide audience, and it will make money. And like, African Americans were not the only people seeing this fucking movie. That's not the only thing that made this movie successful. A lot of people from a lot of different cultures saw this movie at the theater, and that is great. And they're still talking about it, and that's even better.
Yes.
So, I mean, but those are my thoughts on this movie. You will never get me to say that this is my favorite Coogler film. I'm hoping that when I finally sit my ass down to watch Fruitvale Station, that will be like the top tier of Coogler. I'm really wanting that to be a great movie. And that's why I'm dreading watching it, because if it's not like a brilliant movie, I'm gonna hate myself. Uh, I will hate myself. I was like, oh man. Because I really dig. I like the fact that him, and there's a whole bunch of filmmakers out there like that now, who are using different types of genre films to tell these amazing stories. He did that with Creed. He did a boxing movie that kind of rivals the original Rocky movies, actually. Like, he did a brilliant job with that. Like brilliant, which you're not expecting from a boxing movie, for crying out loud. And I've seen a lot of boxing movies, or Marvel movies. Like, everyone will say they love Black Panther because it was so different from everything else. You know, it wasn't just this big film with a bunch of fucking superheroes fighting shit. It actually had culture, it had meaning, and it appealed to a really large audience, a really large audience. And films like this show the general audiences and not stupid studios. I was about to say stupid studios. So studios that having these cultural aspects within their films make them richer, and audiences will gravitate to them more. And that's what I like to see.
Yeah. No, I agree. It is Ryan Coogler is a great director, and and again, this is such a great cast. Like, fun little thing is, like, with Haley Steinfeld and stuff, with her character, I didn't realize the actual actress is mixed race. Like, I think the grandfather is actually black and stuff. So I remember when they say in the movie, it's like, oh yeah, like, mixed race and stuff. I was like, I was like, what? And then I actually looked up. It's like, no, the actual actress also does have that. And it's like, oh, that's neat. Of, like, you don't sometimes there's directors that won't do that. They'll be like, oh yeah, this, and it's not that at all. So, like, again, there's so much thought and care was put into into, like, the culture with this movie and stuff.
And I loved her in this movie. I have generally just liked her in other films I saw her in. I loved her in this movie. I was
Yep.
like, oh shit, okay. I don't think there was a weak performer in this movie. I was pleasantly. I don't think the actor who played Sammy was weak. I think the character was not nearly as strong as some of the other characters.
Yes, I agree. I
I
think
don't
they
think
did.
I don't think he was weak at all. That scene with him and his father at the very beginning, and when he's in the car trying to convince them that he could play. I mean, there's some moments in there in this film with him that are so great. You know, I think it's just I just think that it's the way that that character is written compared to Smoke and Stack, which are absolutely great. I mean, so I do want to ask you about this because I'm still on the fence about this scene at the which is the end scene the end scene uh shit I can't remember which one is still alive at the end now.
It's I
I got him
think
confused. Oh my god.
Smoke. I want to say Smoke. Yeah, it's
I think Smoke. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
Smoke.
Smoke.
Stack is the one with Haley. Haley's a character.
Yes.
So when he kind of lets loose on the Ku Klux Klan members after he's found out that they were going to come there anyways and destroy what their juke joint, and he goes all crazy. I won't say crazy. He doesn't go crazy, but he does enact his vengeance upon them when they show up at his place to kind of burn it down, so to speak. I
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about that scene. I love to see, I'm being African American because I know people don't actually may not know that I am African American. Seeing the Ku Klux Klan get hammered down, I think it's always fun to me. Yeah, if you're listening to this Ku Klux Klan, yeah, I like to see that shit happen. I don't give a shit. But the ideal of him he has multiple guns. He's a sharpshooter, and then he brings out a Tommy gun. I had a lot of fun with that. I had a lot of fun with that. I just think it was weird that he buried the Tommy gun just to pull it out. I thought that was fucking weird. But no, I don't care. That shit was so much fun to me.
Well, like the implication of the scene and stuff is again because they kind of make a comment earlier in the movie about that they both went to war at one point. And so they're both World War One vets, and especially and again, Smoke is the one who's a little bit more. Again, he's the more straight-laced one of the two and stuff. So I mean, the whole having it buried then unearthing it. I mean, the implication there is kind of like a I'm kind of done with that life. I mean, they both are. I mean, again, their backstory is done very well about the story of them going through and stuff, and the reason they're coming back here to Mississippi to basically kind of like they're trying to leave all that stuff behind, the gangster stuff, the war stuff. They're trying to put all that behind, and so that's the implication of why it was buried. But again, like in this situation, Smoke knows that okay, I found out from Remy that definitely the KKK is coming here, and I need to be prepared for it. And it's done. And again, it's a really done scene because again, like Kevin, I like seeing. I am also a big fan of seeing the KKK get the butts kicked. And it is again, it is it is done. It's such a great scene. I would say it probably would be obviously they weren't able to do anything, but it would have behooved if they had maybe had some of those weapons earlier in the film. Maybe you could have made that scene when they getting attacked a little bit more realistic. But it's still a good scene and it's a good payoff of like that scene doesn't come out of nowhere because they laid the groundwork at the already from the beginning when they bought the joint and they already knew the guy was racist uh potentially with the KKK and stuff. And then again the reveal that's like, oh, these two that I've took with me, they are part of the KKK that were going to come and kill you guys and stuff. Part of this whole KKK plan and stuff. So you should be happy. And then they end up getting the payoff at the end with that. So I thought that was done very well.
Yeah, I just want someone else's opinion on it because I actually I saw that as like this I saw that as like the sequence in Django Unchained when Django has this altercation with the Ku Klux Klan. It's so fucking hilarious. That one was hilarious to me. This one here is not well. It is kind of funny. It is kind of funny.
Oh no,
But
it's nothing funny.
I just wanted to get your opinions on it, and I do remember the other film I think this movie pulls from, and this one will be even further down the rabbit hole for people, especially someone as young as you who's probably never seen this. Because the movie has this whole siege sequence where everyone's trapped in the juke joint with the vampires on the outside, and they want Sammy. They actually want to try and convince them on the inside to give them what they want, and they'll go away. That's similar, very similar to two other movies. One is Stephen King's Storm of the Century, which is the whole concept of that movie, and two, it's the same thing that happens in Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight. And I, because I've seen all these movies multiple times, that was like the most blatant, like, I won't want to say rip off, but the most blatant story thing that was borrowed from something else that I just did not like because I've seen it too much. Another third act thing. It's always the third act. It's always the third act. But Demon Knight was the first one that came to mind because it was directed also by Ernest Dickerson, the African American, and starred Jada Pinkett, and Chi I never CHH Pounder. I don't ever say her name right. Among others, and it was a very mixed cast. And that had to deal with demons and Christ and all this type of stuff. And whereas Storm of the Century had to deal with this really old demon who wanted a child that was inside the building. And though the whole thing just came back to me when I'm watching this, and they want Sammy because he's this so-called the key for them. And so that I had to mention that, and it's like that's one of those aspects of this film. And the third act is like, shit. 2/3 of it great, and then I'm starting seeing tropes from other movies. I was like, shit. I was like, oh man. And have you seen either one of those?
No.
I didn't think you did. Of course you haven't, Phil. Of course you haven't, Philip. Oh my god! So that was the only other thing I couldn't remember what my other thing was until the very end. I had to mention it because some people are gonna look at what I say and it's like, oh god, you just really didn't like this movie. No, I love the movie. It's just when you get to the third act, for me, there's a lot of things that just when you're watching a film that seems so original and different, and you don't know what you're going to expect for the first 2/3, and then by the time you get to the third, you start seeing these tropes from other films, and then you start thinking, shit, is it gonna be like this? It's gonna be like that film? Is it fuck? It's gonna be like that film, and then those expectations start coming in. I would have rather have gone through without any expectations, like I did when I watched Coogler's Creed, or even Black Panther or Black Panther 2. When I watched those, I didn't know how the third act was necessarily going to go, but with Creed, I thought it was fucking brilliant. And with Black Panther, there's a lot of people out there who didn't like the second one. I love the second one. I thought the second one was great. I thought it was visually stunning. Loved what they did with culture and everything. I thought it was great. I think Coogler is brilliant at bringing in culture, like different cultures. Let's say different cultures colliding, comparing, contrasting, and that's what makes the films richer. So, any other thoughts from you, Philip? Since I keep having these thoughts that I can't remember that I'm bringing up to you because you don't have the same rich history of horror like I do.
Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts with the movies again, like I completely agree with a lot of your points. Even when I came out in the movie and stuff, I was like, man, I really like the movie. The third act's probably the weakest. It didn't it for me it the movie is really good. It's just what prevents it from being great. I think if the third act was better, it would be great. It would be one of my favorite movies like I've ever seen. But it's still really good. There's so many aspects of it. The cast is just phenomenal. Michael B. Jordan, Michael A. Jordan, they both did such a great job. Um, again, Ryan Coogler is such a good filmmaker. I think he's a good storyteller generally and stuff too. Again, like the script generally is very strong. Again, it falters a little bit at the end, and like you said, there's probably a lot of inspiration. Some of it wears maybe a little bit too hard on its hat, but generally, again, that's done very well. The music is great. It is a movie that, again, if you could see, if for the people who saw it in theaters, again, especially if they saw it in Dolby IMAX, it's definitely one of those movies that was worth it to see it in theaters if you got the chance. I was very thankful I was able to do that. Not to say that it's so watching at home there is slightly lesser, but it's still great. Anyway, so like we'll see for myself if this for me right now is still probably my favorite movie I've seen this year. We'll see if that changes by the time we get to the end of this year, but it's still a very strong contender. It is a good victory for people who've been craving for original movies and stuff. The fact that it did so well is such a victory for that. And just in general, it is, if you have not watched the movie and you listen to this whole podcast, listen to all the spoilers, still go see the movie. It is still really good. And it is still like, again, the fact that it did so well and we got such an original thing is, again, it's, you don't see that often. So yeah, go see it if you haven't seen it already.
I will. I have a very. I think you are absolutely right on the nose. I could give. There are certain aspects I could have almost given it like a perfect like number 5. Like it. Oh, it's an awesome movie. I'll tell everybody with. But it's close. It's close. It's close. But I think that anybody who loves music, who loves the history of music, and the people that created the blues and the jazz era, and who absolutely like me loves Buddy Guy, because that made all the joy in my heart come. I don't care where the scene came, just seeing him on screen in a fucking vampire movie, that's just that's just I don't know if anyone else other than Coogler could have gotten him to do that. Like I love that. But I think this is and we should go ahead and rate the movie while we're talking about this shit too, because I'm just gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 stars, because of the fact that, just like you, Philip, I think it almost is a 5 film, except for my small little things, and those are really nitpicky things, because someone like you who doesn't have as rich a backdrop with all the shit that's came out in the last 200 years worth of horror films, you wouldn't see the stuff that I would see. And there's going to be, I guarantee you, 80% of the audience won't see the shit I see, because I've seen so much horror films and I've rewatched so much horror film. So I think most audiences will kind of stem closer to you than they will to me. But that being said, I mean, I don't think I gave any fucking horror film this year 4 stars. More, you know what? I'm gonna rephrase that. 4.5 stars. God damn it! It's 4.5 stars. I want your ass to go out there and see it. Like, it's 4.5 stars. I may have some nitpicky shit that I'm saying about the movie, but that's nitpicky stuff, because I have this high, maybe too high expectation for a Coogler film. Maybe too high. So yeah, I'm gonna say 4.5 stars for this movie, dude. What about you?
And same, I'm 4.5 stars. Again, it's definitely, again, it would have definitely been a 5 out of 5 if it wasn't for the aforementioned stuff. But again, it does so many things great that, again, it's like it almost got there because of the third act. But again, you can't downplay all of the great filmmaking that happened in
No,
the
you
first
can't.
2/3 of it.
No, there's just too damn much good filmmaking and acting and cinematography and everything else. The music, it all just comes together so beautifully. Even though I have my little nitpickies about the third act, everything comes together, beautifully. And of course, like, my final thing about it is, at the third act, we have this fucking brilliant Irish jig, and we have Buddy Guy. All right. So with that, I want to thank you, Philip, for joining us on Conversations in Horror to talk about Sinners, which just came out this year. So we are hoping that you, if you've already seen it, please go out there and support it. See it again and again and again. Or if you haven't seen it, make sure to go out there and see it. I think it's streaming. By the time this episode airs, it should be streaming if it's not already. So you should be able to easily find it somewhere. With that, I hope that you get to look back on a lot of the other episodes we've aired. There are plenty of vampire films that we've discussed already on our program, among other monsters. And it's always good to talk about a Ryan Coogler film because I think this is literally the only horror film he's done. So we have not talked about anything else about him. So it's always good. With that, I want to thank you for joining us on Conversations in Horror. Make sure to like, follow, share, subscribe, do that thing you do on your favorite podcast app, Spotify, or YouTube. And then check out our sister podcast, Conversations in 4Color, which is all about comic books, manga, and graphic novels. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.